Beginning. This is a story about the meaning of time, and it begins long ago, at the dawn of man's history, with a barefoot boy running up a hillside. Ahead of him is a barefoot girl who's trying to catch her. This is often the way it is between girls and boys. For this too, it is the way it will always be. The boy's name is Dor, the girl is Ellie. At this age, they are nearly the same size, with high-pitched voices and thick, dark hair, their faces splashed with mud. As Ellie runs, she looks back at Dor and grins. What she feels at are the first stirrings of love. She scoops a small rock and tosses it high in his direction. Dor, she yells. Dor, as he runs, is counting his breaths. He's the first person on earth to attempt this counting, making numbers. He began by matching one finger to another, giving each pairing a sound and a value. Soon he was counting anything he could. Dor is gentle, an obedient child, but his mind goes deeper than those around him. He's different. And on this only page of man's history, one different child can change the world, which is why God is watching him. Dor, Ellie yells. He looks up and smiles. He always smiles at Ellie, and the stone falls at his feet. He cocks his head and forms a thought. Throw another. Ellie throws it high. Dor counts his fingers. A sound for one, a sound for two. He is tackled from behind by a third child, Nim, a boy much larger and stronger. Nim crows as he puts a knee in Dor's back. I am Kang. All three children laugh. They resume their running. Try to imagine a life without timekeeping. You probably can't. You know the month, the year, the day of the week. There is a clock on your wall or the dashboard of your car. You have a schedule, a calendar, a time for dinner or a movie. Yet all around you, timekeeping is ignored. Birds are not late. A dog does not check its watch. Deer do not fret over passing birthdays. Man alone measures time. Man alone chimes the hour. And because of this, man alone suffers a paralyzing fear that no other creature endures. A fear of time running out. Chapter 3. Sarah Lehman fears time is running out. She steps from the shower and calculates. 20 minutes to blow dry her hair. Half hour for makeup. Half hour to dress. 15 minutes to get there. 8:30. 8:30. The bedroom door opens. Her mother, Lorraine. Honey? Knock, Mom. Okay, knock, knock. Lorraine eyes the bed. She sees options laid out. 2 pairs of jeans, 3 shirts, a white sweater. Where are you going? Nowhere. Are you meeting someone? No. You look good in the white. Mom! Lorraine sighs. She lifts a wet towel from the floor and leaves. Sarah returns to the mirror. She thinks about the boy. She pinches the fat around her waist. Ugh, 8:30. 8:30. She's definitely not wearing the white. Victor Delamonte fears time is running out. He and Grace step from the elevator into their penthouse. "Give me your coat," Grace says. She hangs it in the closet. It is quiet. Victor uses a cane to move down the hallway, past a large oil painting by a French master. His abdomen is throbbing. He should take a pill. He enters his study, filled with books and plaques, and a huge mahogany desk. Victor thinks about the doctor. There's not much we can do. What does that mean? Months? Weeks? Is this the end of him? This can't be the end of him. He hears Grace's heels pacing on the tile floor. He hears her dial the phone. "Ruth, it's me," she says. Ruth, her sister. Grace lowers her voice. "We just came from the doctor." Alone in his chair, Victor does the math of his dwindling life. He feels a breath shoot from his chest, as if someone choked it out. His face contorts. His eyes moisten. Chapter 4. As children grow, they gravitate to their fates. So did Dor, Nim, and Ellie, the three children on the hillside. Nim became tall and broad-shouldered. He carried mud bricks for his father, a builder. He liked that he was stronger than other boys. Power became Nim's fascination. Ellie grew more beautiful, and her mother warned her to keep her dark hair braided and her eyes lowered, lest her fairness encouraged the bad desires of man. Humility became Ellie's cocoon. Dor? Well, Dor became a measure of things. He marked stones, he notched sticks, he laid out twigs, pebbles, anything he could count. He often fell into a dreamy state, thinking about numbers, and his older brothers left him behind when they went hunting. Instead, Dor ran up the hills with Ellie, and his mind raced ahead of him, beckoning him to follow. And then one hot morning, a strange thing happened. Dor, now a teen by our ears, sat in the dirt and wedged a stick in the ground. The sun was strong, and he noticed the stick shadow. He placed the stone at the shadow's tip. He sang himself. He thought about Ellie. They had been friends since they were children, but now he was taller and she was softer, and he felt a weakness when her lowered eyes lifted up to meet his. He felt as if he were being tipped over. A fly buzzed past, interrupting his daydream. "Ugh," he said, sweating it away. When he glanced back at the stick, its shadow no longer reached the stone. Dor waited, but the shadow grew even smaller because the sun was moving up in the sky. He decided to leave everything in the place and return tomorrow. And tomorrow, when the sun cast a shadow exactly to the stone, that moment would be the same moment as today. In fact, he reasons, wouldn't every day contain one such moment? When the shadow, stick, and the stone aligned? He would call it Alice's moment, and he would think of her each day at the juncture. He tapped his forehead, proud of himself, and thus did man begin to mark time. The fly returned. George sweated it again, only this time it stretched into a long black strip, which opened into a pocket of darkness. Out stepped an old man in a draped white robe. Dora's eyes widened in fear. He tried to run, to scream, but nothing in his body responded. The old man held a staff of golden wood. He poked Dora's son's stick, and it rose from the dirt and turned into a string of wasps. The wasps created a new line of darkness, which opened like a pulled curtain. The old man stepped through it, and he was gone. Dora ran away. He never told anyone about the visit, not even Ellie, not until the end. Chapter 5. Sarah finds time in a drawer. She opens it, looking for her black jeans, and instead discovers, buried near the back, her first watch, a purple Swatch model with a plastic band. Her parents gave it to her for her 12th birthday. 2 months later, they discovered. "Sarah!" her mother yelled from downstairs. "What?" she yells back. After the split, Sarah stayed with Lorraine, who would blame Tom, her absent ex, for every wrong thing in their lives. Sarah would nod sympathetically, but each of them, in a way, was still waiting on the man. Lorraine admitted he was wrong. Sarah to have him rescue her. Neither thing happened. "What, Mom?" Sarah yells again. "Do you need the car?" "I don't need the car." "What?" "I don't need the car." "Where are you going?" "Nowhere." Sarah checks the purple watch, which still runs. It is 6:59 p.m. 8:30. 8:30. She closes the drawer and yells, "Focus!" Where are her black jeans? Victor finds time in a drawer. He takes out his calendar book. He sees the next day's itinerary, which includes a 10 a.m. board meeting, a 2 p.m. conference call with analysts, and an 8 p.m. dinner with a Brazilian CEO whose company Victor is buying. The way he feels, he'll be lucky to get through one of those. He swallows a pill. He hears a buzzer. Who is coming at this hour? He hears Grace walking down the hall. He sees their wedding picture on his desk. The two of them, so young, so healthy. No tumors, no failing kidneys. "Victor?" She's at the study door with a man from a service company who pushes a large electric wheelchair. "What's this?" Victor says. Grace forces a smile. "We decided, remember?" "I don't need it yet." "Victor, I don't need it." Grace looks to the ceiling. "Just leave it," she tells the serviceman. "In the hallway," Victor instructs. "In the hallway," Grace repeats. She follows the man out. Victor closes the calendar and rubs his abdomen. He thinks about what the doctor said. There's not much we can do. He has to do something. Chapter 6. Dora and Ellie were married. They stood at an altar on a warm autumn night. Gifts were exchanged. Ellie wore a veil. Dora poured perfume over her head and declared, "She is my wife. I will fill her lap with silver and gold." This was how it was done in their day. Dora felt a warm, calming feeling when he said those words, "She is my wife," because ever since they were children, she was like the sky to him, forever around. Only Ellie could distract him from his counting. Only Ellie could bring him water from the great river and sit beside him and hum a sweet melody, and he would sip from the cup and not even realize how long he had been staring. Now they were married. It made him happy. That night, he observed a quarter moon through the clouds, and he used it to mark the moment, the light of the night they were wed. Dor and Ellie had 3 children, a son, then a daughter, then another daughter. They lived with Dor's family in his father's house, near 3 other houses made of wattle and dog. Families lived together in their time. Parents, children, and grandchildren all under one roof. Only if a son acquired wealth would he have moved to a house of his own. Dor would never acquire wealth. He would never fill Ellie's lap with silver and gold. All the goats, sheep, and oxen belonged to his brothers or his father, who often sweated Dor for wasting his time with silly measures. His mother cried when she saw him hunched over his work. She felt the gods had left him feeble. "Why could you not be more like Nim?" she asked. Nim had become a powerful king. He had great riches and many slaves. He had begun construction of a massive tower, and on certain mornings, Dor and Ellie would walk past it with their children. "Did you really play with him when you were a boy?" his son asked. Dor nodded. Ellie took her husband's arm. "Your father was a faster runner and a better climber." Dor smiled. "Your mother was faster than us all." The children laughed and pulled at her legs. "If your father says it, it must be true," she said. Dor counted the slaves working on Nim's tower, counted them until he ran out of numbers. He thought about how differently his life and Nim's life had turned out. Later that day, Dor carved notches on a clay tablet to mark the sun's path across the sky. When the children reached to play with his tools, Ellie gently moved their hands away and kissed their fingers. History does not show it, but as Dor grew older, he dabbled in every form of time measurement that science would later credit to others. Long before Egyptian obelisks, Dor was catching shadows. Long before Greek clepsydrons, Dor was measuring water. He would invent the first sundial. He would create the first clock, even the first calendar. Ahead of his time. That's a phrase we use. Dor was ahead of everyone. Consider the word time. We use so many phrases with it. Pass time, waste time, kill time, lose time. In good time, about time, take your time, save time. A long time, right on time, out of time, mind the time, be on time, spare time, keep time, stall for time. There are as many expressions with time as there are minutes in a day. But once there was no word for it at all because no one was counting. Then door began and everything changed. Chapter 7. One day, when his children were old enough to run hillsides on their own, Dora had a visit from King Nim, his childhood friend. "What is this?" Nim asked. He was holding a bowl. There was a small hole near the bottom. "A measure," Dora answered. "No, Dora," Nim laughed. "It is a useless bowl. Look at this hole. Any water you pour in will drip out." Dora did not challenge him. How could he? While Dora spent his days with bones and sticks, Nim led attacks on neighboring villages, took people's possessions, declared that they must follow him. This visit was unusual. The first in many moons, Nim wore an impressive wool robe, dyed purple, a color of wealth. "Do you know the tower we built?" Nim asked. "It is unlike anything I have ever seen," Dora said. "That is just the start, friend. It will take us to the heavens." "Why?" "To defeat the gods." "Defeat them?" "Yes. And then," Nim puffed out his chest, "then I shall rule from above." Dora looked away. "Join me," Nim said. "Me? You are clever. I know from our days as children. You are not mad, as the others said. Your knowledge and these things," he pointed to the instruments, "they could make my tower stronger. Yes?" Dora shrugged. "Show me how they work." For the rest of the afternoon, Dora explained his ideas. He showed Nim how the shadow from the sunstick lined up with his markings, and how pointers of the stick broke the day into parts. He laid out his collection of stones that charted the stages of the moon. Nim did not understand most of what Dora said. He shook his head and insisted the sun god and the moon god were in constant battle. He accounted for their rise and fall. Power was what mattered, and power was what awaited him once the tower was complete. Dora listened, but he could not see Nim storming the clouds. What chance would he have? When their conversation was finished, Nim grabbed one of the sun sticks. "I'll take this with me," he said. "Wait!" Nim pulled it to his chest. "Make another. Bring it when you come to help with the tower." Dora looked down. "I cannot help you." Nim ground his jaw back and forth. "Why not?" "I have my work." Nim laughed. "Putting holes in bowls." "It is more than that." "I will not ask again." Dora said nothing. "As you wish." Nim exhaled. He stepped to the doorway. "But you must leave the city." "Leave?" "Yes." "Where?" "That does not concern me." Nim examined the carvings on the sunsticks. "But go far. If you do not, my men will force you onto the tower, as they will the others." He moved past the bowls and lifted the one with the small hole in it, turned it over, then shook his head. I will never forget our childhood, Nim said, but we will not see each other again. Chapter 8. Sarah Lehman is running out of time. It is 7:25 p.m. and her black jeans, which she finally found in the washing machine, are now tumbling in the dryer on the highest heat, and her hair is so unruly she wants to cut it off. Her mother has twice returned to her room, the last time holding a glass of wine, and offered an opinion on Sarah's makeup. "Okay, Mom, I got it," she said, dismissing her. She has chosen a raspberry t-shirt, the black jeans, if they were even dry, and the black boots with the heels. Heels will make her look thinner. She's to meet her boy outside a convenience store. 8:30. 8:30. And maybe they will eat something or go somewhere, whatever he wants. Until now, they have only seen each other on Saturday mornings at a shelter where they worked. But Sarah hinted several times about getting together, and last week he finally said, "Yeah, okay, maybe Friday." Now it is Friday and she feels goosebumps on her skin. A boy like this, popular, good-looking, has never paid attention to Sarah before. When she's with him, she wants the minutes to go slower, yet until she sees him, they cannot pass quickly enough. She looks in the mirror. Ugh, this hair. Victor Delamonte is running out of time. It is 7:25 p.m. The East Coast offices will be closed, but the West Coast will not. He picks up the phone. He dials a different time zone. He asks the research. While he waits, he eyes the book on his shelf and does a mental inventory. Read it, never read it, never read it. If he used every minute the doctor said he had left, he still wouldn't finish all these volumes. And this is one room. In one house, unacceptable. He's rich. He must do something. Research, a female voice says. Yeah, it's Victor. Mr. Delamonte? She sounds nervous. How can I help? He thinks about Grace and the wheelchair she ordered. He will not give up so easily. I want you to get on something right away. Send me whatever you find. Certainly. The researcher taps her keys. What's the topic? Immortality. Chapter 9. That night after Nim's visit, Dora and Ellie climbs a hillside to watch the sunset. They did this almost every evening, recalling the days they had chased each other as children. But this time, Dora was quiet. He carried several bowls and a jug of water. When they sat, he told Ellie about Nim's visit. She began to cry. But where are we to go? She said. This is our home, our family. How will we survive? Dora looked down. Do you want me to enslave on the tower? No. Then we have no choice. He touched her tears and wiped them away. I'm afraid, she whispered. She hugged her arms around his chest and leaned her head into his shoulder. She did this every night, and like most small demonstrations of love, it had a large impact. Dora felt a surge of calm whenever she held him, like being wrapped in a blanket, and he knew no one else would ever love or understand him the way she did. He nestled his face into her long dark hair, and he breathed a way he never breathed except when he was with her. "I will protect you," he promised. They sat for a long while, watching the horizon. "Look," Ellie whispered. She loved the sunset colors, the oranges, the soft pinks, the cranberry reds. Dora stood up. "Where are you going?" Ellie asked. "I must try something." "Stay with me." But Dora moved to the rocks. He poured water into a small bowl, then placed a larger one beneath it. He removed a piece of clay plugged inside a hole in the upper bowl. Then one neem had moved, and the water began to drip through, one silent splash after another. "Dora?" Ellie whispered. He did not look up. "Dora." She pulled her arms around her knees. What would become of them? She thought. Where would they go? She lowered her head and sneezed, her eyes shut. If one were recording history, one might write that at the moment man invented the world's first clock, his wife was alone, softly crying, while he was consumed by the counts. Dora and Ellie stayed on the hillside that night. She slept, but he fought his weariness to be awake when the sun rose. He watched the sky change from night black to deep purple to a melting blue. Then a burst of rays seemed to whiten everything, as the dome of sun poked over horizon, like the golden pupil of an opening eye. Had he been wiser, he might have marveled at the beauty of the sunrise and given thanks for being able to witness it. But Dora was not focusing on the miracle of the day, only on measuring its length. As the sun appeared, he slid the lower bowl away from the upper bowl dripping, took a sharp stone and notched the water line. This is, he concluded, this much water was the measure between darkness and light. From now on, no one needed to pray for the sun god to return. They could use this water clock, see the level rising, and know dawn was coming. Nim was wrong. There was no divine battle between day and night. Dora had captured them both in a bowl. He dumped the water. God saw it too. Chapter 10. Sarah is anxious. She hurries down the steps in her still warm black jeans. She feels a flush of panic. She remembers a night 2 years ago, one of the few times she's gone out with a boy. A winter formal dance. A kid from her math class. His hands were clammy. His breath smelled like pretzels. He left with his friends. She had to call her mom to pick her up. This is different, she tells herself. That was a weird boy. This is a young man. He is 18. He's popular. Any girl at school would want him. Look at his photo. And he's meeting her. What time will you be back? Lorraine asks, looking up from the couch. Her wine glass is nearly empty. It's Friday, Mom. It's just a question. I don't know, okay? Lorraine rubs her temples. I'm not the enemy, honey. Didn't say you were. She checks her phone. She cannot be late. 8:30. 8:30. She yanks her coat from the closet. Victor is anxious. He taps his finger on the desk, waiting for research. Grace's voice comes over the intercom. Honey, are you hungry? Maybe a little. How about some soup? He stares out the window. This New York penthouse is one of 5 homes they own. The other 4 were in California, Hawaii, and Hamptons, and central London. Since his cancer diagnosis, he hasn't been to any of them. Soup is fine. I'll bring it then. Thanks. She has been kinder since his illness, sweeter and more patient. They have been married 44 years. The last 10 they have been more like roommates. Victor picks up the phone to see how research is coming, but when Grace enters with the soup, he hangs up. Chapter 11. Dora and Ellie loaded their meager possessions on a donkey and went to live in the high plains. Their children, it was decided, would be safer with Dora's parents. Ellie was heartbroken. Twice she made Dora turn back, just so she could hug them again. When their oldest daughter asked, "Am I the mother now?" she collapsed, sobbing. Their new abode was small, made of bundleries. It was weak against the wind and rain. Alone without family, the couple relied solely on each other. They grew what they could, herded sheep and a single goat, and rationed water from long trips to the greater river. Thor continued his measuring, using bones, sticks, and sun, moon, and stars. It was the only thing that made him feel productive. Ellie grew withdrawn. One night, Thor saw her hugging their son's swaddling blanket and staring at the floor. From time to time, Thor's father would bring them food, at his wife's insistence. And each visit, he spoke about Nim's tower, how high it had grown, how the bricks were made of with, how the clay mortar came from the fountains of Shinar. Already, Nim had climbed near the top, shot an arrow into the sky, and claimed it had landed with blood on its tip. The people bowed at him, believing he had wounded the gods. Soon, he and his best warriors would reach the clouds, defeat whatever waited for them, and rule from above. He is a great, powerful king, Thor's father said. Thor looked down. Nim was the reason they were living in exile, the reason he could not hold his children each morning. He thought about his life as a child, he and Nim and Ellie running up the hills. Nim was just another man to him, really still a boy, always wanting to be the strongest. "Thank you for the food, father," Thor said. Chapter 12. Door, visitors. Ellie rose to her feet. An elderly couple was approaching on foot. Many moons had now passed since Dora's banishment. On our calendar, more than 3 years, and Ellie was grateful for any company at all. She greeted the men and women and offered them food and water, even though there were precious little to spare. Dora was proud of his wife's kindness, but he worried about the visitors, who did not look well. Their eyes were red and watery, and their skin had dark blotches. When he was alone with Ellie, he warned her, "Do not touch them. I fear they are diseased." "They're alone and poor," she protested. They have no one else. Show them the mercy we would want in return. Ellie served visitors barley cakes and barley paste, and the little goat's milk they had. She listened as they told their tale. They too had been cast out from their village, the people fearful that the dark blotches meant they had been cursed. They lived now as nomads in a tent made of goat skins. They moved in search of sustenance and waited for days they would die. The old woman cried when she said this. Ellie cried with her. She knew what it felt like to lose your place in the world. She held a small cup so the old woman could sip. Thank you, she whispered. Drink, Ellie said. Your kindness. She reached out to embrace Ellie, her wrinkled hands trembling. Ellie leaned and nuzzled her cheek. She could feel the old woman's tears mixing with hers. Be at peace, Ellie said. As they left, Ellie slipped the woman a skein filled with the last of their barley cakes. Dor checked his water-clogged bowl and saw a fingernail's length until the sun disappeared. Chapter 13. Before you measure the years, you measure the days. And before the days, you measure the moon. Dor had done this in exile, charting its stages. Full moon, half moon, quarter moon, moonless. Unlike the sun, which looked the same every day, the changing moon gave Dor something to count, and he gauged holes on clay tablets until he noticed a pattern. The pattern was what the Greeks would later call months. He assigned a stone to every full moon. He noticed tablets for moons in between. He created the first calendar, and now all his days were numbered. On the fifth notch of the third stone, he heard Ellie cough. Soon her cough grew harsher, a low explosion that drew her head forward. At first she tried to continue as usual, tending to daily tasks inside the reed house, but she grew so weak that she fell one day while preparing a meal, and Dora insisted she lie on a blanket. Perspiration beaded on her temples. Her eyes were red and teary. Dora noticed a blotch on her neck. Inside, he was angry. He had warned her not to touch these visitors, and now they had passed on their curse. He wished they had never come. What should we do? Ellie asked. Dora dabbed her forehead with the blanket. He knew they should seek out an Azu, a medicine man, who could give Ellie roots or cream to make this disease go away. But the city was too far. How could he leave her? They were alone on these high plains, cut off from options. Sleep, Dor whispered. You will be better soon. Ellie nodded and closed her eyes. She did not see Dor blink away his tears. Chapter 14. Sarah speaks to time. Go slower, she says. She slips out the door and heads up the street. She imagines the boy with the coffee-colored hair. She imagines him greeting her with a sudden sweeping kiss. She looks back and sees a light go on in her mother's room. She quickens her pace. It is not beyond her mother to open the window and yell down the block. Like many teenage girls, Sarah finds her mother a huge embarrassment. She talks too much. She wears too much makeup. She's constantly correcting Sarah. Don't slouch, fix your hair. When she's not complaining to her friends about Sarah's father, who doesn't even live in the state anymore. Tom did this. Tom is late on the check again. They used to be closer, but lately mother and daughter share mutual incomprehension. Each seems baffled by the other. Sarah does not discuss boys with Lorraine. Not that there has been much to discuss until now. 8:30. 8:30. She hears a beep. Her cell phone. She grabs it from her coat pocket. Victor speaks to time. Go faster, he says. It has been an hour, and he's used to quick responses. It doesn't help that all around him time is literally ticking. A mental clock sits on his desk. His computer screen clicks off the seconds. His cell phone, desk phone, printer, and DVD player all have digital time displays. On the wall is a wooden plaque of 3 clocks in 3 time zones: New York, London, Beijing, representing the major offices of another company he owns. All told, there are 9 different sources of time in his study. The phone rings. Finally, he answers. Yes? I'm faxing something over. Good. He hangs up. Grace enters. Who was that? He lies. Something for tomorrow's meeting. You have to go? Why not? I just thought. She stops. She knows. She takes the plates to the kitchen. The fax machine rings, and Victor moves closer as the paper slides through. Chapter 15. Thor lay on grounded beside his wife. The stars took over the sky. It had been days since she had eaten. She was perspiring heavily, and he worried about her labored breathing. Please do not leave me, he thought. He could not bear a word without Ellie. He realized how much he relied on her from morning until night. She was his only conversation, his only smile. She prepared their meager food and always offered it to him first, even though he insisted she eat before he did. They leaned on each other at sunsets, holding her as they slept felt like his last connection to humanity. He had his time measures and he had her. That was his life. For as long as he could remember, it had been that way. Dora and Ellie, even as children. I do not want to die, she whispered. You will not die. I want to be with you. You are. She coughed the blood. He wiped it away. Dora, my love, asked the gods for help. Dora did as she asked. He stayed up all night. He prayed in a way he had never prayed before. In the past, his faith was in measures and numbers, but now he begged the most high gods, the ones that ruled over the sun and moon, to stop everything, to keep the world dark, to let his water closet overflow. If this would happen, then Dor would have time to find the Asu who could cure his beloved. He swayed back and forth. He repeated a whisper, please, 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 squeezing his eyes shut because it somehow made the word more pure. But when he allowed his eyelids the slightest lift, he saw what dreaded, the first change of colors on the horizon. He saw the ball was nearly to the notch of day. He saw that his measures were accurate, and he hated that they were accurate, and he cursed his knowledge and the gods who had let him down. He knelt over his wife, her face and her hair soaked in sweat, and he leaned in, put his skin on her skin, his cheek on her cheek, and his tears mixed with hers, and whispered, "I will stop you suffering. I will stop everything." When the sun rose, he could no longer wake her. He rubbed her shoulders. He nudged her chin. "Ellie," he whispered. "Ellie, my wife, open your eyes." She was quite still, her head limp on the blanket, her breathing feeble. Dora felt an angry surge inside him, a primal howl that began his feet and shot up through his lung. "Ah!" His cry wafted into empty air of the high plains. He rose slowly, as if in a trance, and he began to run. He ran through the morning and he ran through the midday sun. He ran with his lungs burning until at last he saw it. Nim's tower. He stood so tall, its peak was hidden by clouds. Dora raced towards it, obsessed with one last hope. He had watched time and charted time and measured time and analyzed time, and he was determined now to reach the only place where time could be changed, the heavens. He would climb the tower and do what the gods had not. He would make this time stop. The tower was terraced pyramids, its stairs reserved for Nim's glorious ascent. No one dared set foot on them. Some men even lowered their eyes as they passed. Thus, when Dora reached the base, several guards looked up, but none suspected what he would try. Before they could react, he was sprinting up the king's special steps. Slaves watched, confused. Who was this man? Did he belong? One yelled to the other. Several dropped their tools and bricks. Quickly the slaves began ascending too, convinced the race for the heavens had begun. The guards followed. People near the base joined in. The lust for power is a conspicuous thing, and soon thousands were scaling the tower's facade. You could hear a rising roar and collective yell of violent men, ready to take what was not theirs. What happened next is a matter of debate. The way history tells the story, the Tower of Babel was either destroyed or abandoned, but the man who would become Father Time could testify to something else, because his fate was sealed on that very same day. As the people climbed, the structure began to rumble. The brick grew molten red. The thundering sound was heard, and the bottom of the tower melted away. The top burst into flame. The middle hung in the air, defying anything man had ever seen. Those who sought to reach the heavens were hurled off, like snow shaken from a tree branch. Through it at all, Thor climbed, until he saw the one only figure still clinging to the stairs. He climbed past dizziness, past pain, past his legs aching and his chest constricting. He pulled up on each steps. As bodies swirled around him, he saw glimpses of arms, elbows, feet, hair. Thousands of men were cast from the tower that day, their tongues twisted into a multitude of languages. Nim's selfish plan was destroyed before he shot another arrow into the sky. Only one man was allowed to ascend through the mist, one man lifted as if pulled from beneath his arms. landing on the floor of some place deep and dark, a place no one knew existed and no one would ever find. Chapter 16. This will happen soon. An ocean wave began to break, and the boy rises on his surfboard. He presses his toes. He stirs into the curl. The wave freezes, so does he. This will happen soon. A hairstylist pulls back a clump of hair and slides her scissors underneath. She squeezes, a small crunching sound. The hair breaks free and falls towards the floor. It stops in midair. This will happen soon. In a museum of Hedenstraße in Düsseldorf, Germany, a security guard glances at a strange-looking visitor. He's lean. His hair is long. He moves to an exhibit of antique clocks. He opens a glass case. No, but the guard warns, wagging a finger, but instantly he feels relaxed, foggy, lost in thought. He thinks he sees the strange man remove all the clocks, study them, take them apart, then put them back together, an act that would take weeks. Emerging from the thought, he finishes his word. It. But the man is gone.